Hello everyone, Jules here. Today I'd like to talk about a new oracle deck that has just recently been published, which is the Tree of Life Oracle by David Wells. And this has been recently published by Hay House. So I'm going to talk about this deck and also about a few other things in regard to Qabalah, because this deck is about Qabalah. So I'm going to talk about that. And just first of all, the thing I want to particularly say is this deck is about Hermetic Qabalah, which is the Hermetic Qabalah of the Golden Dawn. I'm particularly saying this to start with because I know a lot of people who think about Qabalah these days think about cultural appropriation, and I just want to point out that Hermetic Qabalah is not the same as Jewish Qabalah. Jewish Qabalah was the original form of the Qabalah, and Jewish Qabalah is based on Jewish scripture, and it is a form of Jewish mysticism, whereas Hermetic Qabalah of the Golden Dawn is an esoteric system. The only sort of connection to Jewish Qabalah is that it's based on the structure of the Qabalah glyph, which you can see behind me here. It's based on that glyph and on the structure, but all of the concepts and ideas of Hermetic Qabalah, which is an esoteric English system, is all the whole system of the Golden Dawn. So I just wanted to say that to begin with. And also too, when the Golden Dawn, specifically Samuel Mathers, who was the head of the order, who wrote the whole curriculum for the Golden Dawn, he was actually inspired by Jewish Qabalah, and he also translated this particular book of the Zohar, which is the Jewish Qabalah, one of the Jewish Qabalah books. So I think I wanted to say particularly that the Golden Dawn was inspired and actually had a great respect and a high regard for Jewish Qabalah, and that is why they were inspired to create Hermetic Qabalah. And the Jewish Qabalah is always spelt with a K, and Hermetic Qabalah is Qabalah spelt with a Q. So I think that's a really good way to differentiate. Anyway, I've spoken about this book on my channel before. For anyone who's interested, this is the translation of that Samuel Mathers did of one of the books of the Zohar. So that's on my channel. But I just wanted to talk about that to begin with, because I know the subject of cultural appropriation comes up, but I just wanted to say the origins of where Hermetic Qabalah comes from, because Jewish Qabalah has nothing to do with tarot or correspondences or anything like that. Nothing at all. It's all to do with Jewish scripture and Jewish concepts, biblical concepts, religious concepts, all that type of thing. Okay, so just that out of the way. So here is the deck. It's got 44 cards. This deck is entry-level Qabalah with a Q 101. This is Hermetic Qabalah entry-level 101. And I just wanted to say that as well. Anyone who gets this deck and thinks they're going to be an instant expert in Qabalah, well, it takes many years of study to get a really good handle on Qabalah. So anyway, this is the Tree of Life Oracle. And the other thing I want to say too is that Hermetic Qabalah also, Qabalah is not strictly an oracle. Not really. It's a system, and it's an esoteric system when you're talking about Hermetic Qabalah. But it's not an oracle. But this deck is calling the Tree of Life an oracle for this deck. Okay, so I wanted to say that as well. So here is the little book written by David Wells. There's some things I like in this book, there's some things I'm not as keen on. I need to say straight up, I got this deck for the artwork, and the artist is Roberta Orpwood. So the art is quite beautiful. I got this for the artwork. I've been a practitioner of Qabalah, particularly Hermetic Qabalah, for 15 years. So I didn't really need this deck, but I personally got this deck for the artwork. So this is, as I said, this is like a very sort of beginner's guide to just the basic things about Hermetic Qabalah. In the introduction to the book, David Wells does make the distinction about, spelling Qabalah with a Q. By that I mean Hermetic Qabalah of the Golden Dawn. All of the most of the correspondences and names and things in this book are taken straight off the Golden Dawn. I don't like the fact that that is not mentioned anywhere in the book. These correspondences and the association of the planets, all of these are straight out of the Golden Dawn. So I wanted to say that because it kind of gives the impression that David Wells has created these associations, which are correspondences. These are the correspondences of the Golden Dawn. So I don't like the way that particularly has not been mentioned, but anyway. I also find the font in the book a bit small, but I'm not going to use this book anyway, but I mean for people who want to use the book. I find the font's a little bit small, but other people, that won't bother them. I think of this book also as a contemporary, it's like a contemporary approach to Hermetic Qabalah. I don't agree with the kinds of meanings that are in here. I mean, they're okay for people who want a good, a general idea of the basic concepts, but this is not, the correspondences and associations are from the Golden Dawn and Crowley, but the meanings in here are more contemporary and more to do with the approach of the author. So I need to mention that. I mean, if you think of the correspondences or associations, but not the meanings are more contemporary and they're more to do with they're coming from the author, the meanings. Okay, just to get all that out of the way. There are some spreads in here, but they're all your basic spreads that people who particularly know tarot would be familiar with, like the 3-card spread, the Celtic Cross spread. There is a Tree of Life spread. I know about the Tree of Life spread, but personally I hardly ever use that. That is my personal attitude about doing a Tree of Life spread. I'm not really in favour of that. And there is a quite a helpful picture here in the book that people might like. It's got all of the 22 paths here. You know, this is all straight out of the Golden Dawn with the associated major arcana cards here for all the 22 paths. You have each of the 10 Sephirot here, Sephirah, and there is the additional one here, the 11th, which is not really the 11th, but that's the art is here. But anyway, it's in the book, but okay, that's what's there. Now, to get started on the cards, they're kind of divided into, as in the book, they're kind of divided into the different parts of Qabalah. So you get the first few cards are all about, you know, the Tree of Life itself. So here is the Tree of Life glyph itself, structure, and you have the allocated planetary symbols here. And as I was saying, this is Hermetic Qabalah. Jewish Qabalah has got nothing to do with planets, tarot cards, correspondences, nothing. Okay, so just keep in mind the whole time this is Hermetic Qabalah spelt with a Q of the Golden Dawn. And so each of the spheres, which are called Sephirah, you have your allocated planetary symbols here. So that's that card. Then you have, he's divided the structure, the Pillar of Mercy. Pillar of Mercy is on this side here. That's a Pillar of Mercy. And of course there is, you know, a description for these in the book. The middle pillar, which is the one, yeah, right in the middle. That's why it's called the middle pillar. It's the middle pillar. The Pillar of Severity, which is on the other side. Got your planetary symbols there. So each of the Sephirah, or the spheres, are, if you think of these as different forms of energy. And then he also includes the triangles as part of the structure, which is what the Golden Dawn did as well. I'll just show you one of these triangles. You have this here, you have this upper one here. Now, for example, to give you an idea of the contemporary approach, the names of the triangles are different to the Golden Dawn names. For example, the top triangle he's calling it, the author's calling it the spiritual triangle, whereas the Golden Dawn called it the supernal triangle. So that's just one example that you know, some of these terms are the terms of the author. But it's the correspondences, like the planets and things like that, and some of the names, I'll go into that, taken straight out of the Golden Dawn. Now, I wanted to mention here that these top two planets here were the later planets of Uranus and Neptune. They were not included on the original Golden Dawn associations. This is a more modern idea. Crowley later decided to add these other planets as well. The Golden Dawn only used the 7 planets as far as Saturn. They didn't use from Uranus, Neptune or Pluto. So needed to mention that as well. Then So you've got the structure to start with, and then it goes into, the deck goes into the 4 elements. I'll show you the cards for those. The only drawback I have with that as well in the book is that the elements are mentioned. The elements are mentioned, but they're not mentioned, they're not sort of explained why the elements are mentioned in regard to Qabalah. Not at all. There's no explanation of why the 4 elements are there. I think it would have been nice for the author to say why the 4 elements are being mentioned. From a Qabalah perspective, I know why, but a beginner would not know why. So I think that that should have been mentioned in the book. For example, here is the element of water card. I quite love the artwork because I really like Roberta Orpwood's work, and that's the element of fire. Quite a beautiful card, and you've got the fire symbol here for the element of fire. This was the element of water. Quite beautiful cards. Okay, so then the structure of the deck goes into the 10 Sephirot. Now, these names, like for example, the first one is Keter. Now, they're all numbered from 1 to 10, and they have the Hebrew name here and the English name, the English words which come from the Golden Dawn. For a lot of people, they get quite put off by the Hebrew name, and I can understand that, and that is why I have always said on my channel that for a lot of people, of course, you know, a lot of people, English-speaking people, do not know the Hebrew language. So you can just call it the crown. You don't have to try, really, to say. If you were studying Jewish Qabalah, yes, you would need to learn some Hebrew language and learn how to pronounce these. But with Hermetic Qabalah, you can say the English translation here, which is the crown. And this has got the planet Neptune symbol assigned here. But as I was saying, the Golden Dawn didn't use Neptune, Uranus or Pluto. But anyway, there's that card for the crown. Number 1, sphere. Number 2 sphere is Chokmah, which is wisdom. And there's keywords down here as well. I don't agree with all these keywords, but this is just a basic kind of idea. This is a basic approach. This is a basic introduction, but you know, because I've been studying Qabalah for 15 years, it takes a long time to get into the essence of Hermetic Qabalah, and especially the Golden Dawn, whereas this is a more contemporary approach that's been used by the author. So you've got the planet Uranus up here for Chokmah, which is wisdom. So that one. Number 2 Sephirah. Number 3 Sephirah is Bina, which is understanding. You've got the planet Saturn. Now, this is as far as the Golden Dawn went up to sphere number 3. The 7 planets stopped at Saturn. So this is Bina, which is understanding. Then you have Hesed, which is mercy, number 4. You have the symbol for the planet Jupiter. And I've chosen the cards that I particularly like from this deck. There's only one card in particular that I really don't understand the illustration. I cannot see the correspondence there, but that doesn't matter. There's only one card. I'm not going to show that one today. Number 7 is Netzach, which is victory. And victory has a very old association with the Romans, with Venus. So a lot of people get a bit puzzled with that association. But Venus was a goddess of victory, according to the Romans. So that's an association that a lot of people would not necessarily make for Venus, with Venus, but it's a very, very old Roman idea. So that's sphere number 7. Number 9 is Yesod, which is foundation, associated with the moon. Number 10, Malkut, which is kingdom. And you can see the earth symbol here, symbol for earth. Right, at this point I should show you the back of the cards. Here's the back of the cards with the tree symbol. I always refer to Qabalah as Qabalah. I rarely use the term tree of life. To me, it doesn't really have an association all that much with the tree of life, but I can tell you why that is, why the tree of life term is often used. The tree of life term comes from the book of Genesis, which is from Jewish Qabalah. So that is why it's particularly called the tree of life in Jewish Qabalah. That's probably another reason why I call it Qabalah, or with a Q, or Hermetic Qabalah when I'm talking about the Golden Dawn English esoteric system. Okay, now for some of the cards which are to do with the paths, the 22 paths of Qabalah. I was looking for something to show you again. 22 paths, which are all of these lines that all join up here. There's 22 paths, which is where the major arcana cards of the tarot were placed by the Golden Dawn. And they all start from path number 11. So they start at the top of the glyph and work all the way down. So here is the Fool, the 11th path. That's another reason why I got this deck, is because sometimes it's a really good idea to remind myself of the path numbers. I like the idea that the path numbers are on these cards. I wanted to get this for the artwork anyway, but I like the idea of the numbers of the paths being on the cards. It's kind of like a little reminder for me at times. So here is the Fool, the 11th path. As I was saying, this starts from the top of the glyph. The 12th path is the Magician. I love the way that a female figure has been chosen for this. A lot of people think of males as the magician, but the esoteric tradition has a lot of female magicians, the most prominent one being Dion Fortune. But I love the idea that this is a female figure for the magician, which is the 12th path. I'm skipping a few parts here because I'm only choosing the cards that I wanted to show that I like. The 14th path is the Empress. It's quite a beautiful card. Which represents abundance and fertility and earthly form. That's a 14th path. The 15th path is the Emperor. It's quite a beautiful card. The 18th path is the Chariot. You've got the Cancerian symbol here, the Golden Dawn. The 20th path is the Hermit. Now, 22nd path is Justice. Now, I want to make a little comment here too. Some of these titles are like hybrid titles. Now, what I mean by that is, for example, with this one, 22nd path of Justice. But it says Justice stroke adjustment. So the Justice title, for example, is from the Waite-Smith deck, for example. Adjustment is from the 12th deck. Now, there have been other decks occasionally made that do this. The one that comes to my mind straight away is the Sun and Moon Tarot. Now, a lot of people see this, they see the word adjustment and they think automatically, oh, this is Thoth. It's not Thoth. This is someone who has just decided to use both titles for the card. So I don't agree with this. This card, you know, this person who's created this deck should, I think, this is my opinion, should decide on which title they're going to have. Is it going to be Justice or is it going to be Adjustment? So that's something else that I want to say here. I'm not a fan of hybrid decks of any kind. I think it's confusing for beginners. I think it's confusing for people in general. So I don't like these double-barreled names for the major arcana. So that's the 22nd path of, I'm going to call it Justice. We have this occurring again, the 25th path of either Art from the 12th or Temperance. That's another double-barreled name. Double-barreled title. I'm going to call that Temperance. That is the 25th path. The 27th path is the Tower. I quite like this card. I love the dragon wrapped around the tower. 28th path is the star. It's quite a beautiful card too. The 29th path is the moon. And the 30th path is the sun. So you have an Egyptian rendition here for this card. It's quite beautiful. I really like this card for the sun. 30th path. There's 32 paths in total for Qabalah, for Hermetic Qabalah. Okay, the cardstock is quite good. It's just kind of like a matte finish. The cardstock's quite good. It's probably a typical Hay House. It's oracle size because it's an oracle. Okay, so there's some of the cards of the Tree of Life Oracle by David Wells. So I've mentioned some of the things I'm not keen on, some of the things I don't like, some of the things, I suppose the thing I most like is the artwork, because that's why I got this deck. And I also like to be reminded about the path numbers for the major arcana. I mentioned a few of the things that I don't really like about some of the titles on the cards, some of the things that are written in the book that I think are confusing for beginners or people in general. And as I said, this is entry-level Hermetic Qabalah 101. So people who don't know anything about Qabalah, Hermetic Qabalah, this would be useful for people who want an introduction to just very basic Hermetic Qabalah. So I think it's useful for people who are interested in just learning the basics about Hermetic Qabalah, and people who particularly like the artwork of Roberta Orpwood as well, which I do. So I just wanted to show this today because it's a new deck just published for people who are interested. I'll put some details below the video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.